everyone. Welcome to At Home with Sally. I'm Sally Clarkson, and I have the biggest privilege in the world to be with so many friends from all over the world who join me every week to listen to my stories, inspiration, biblical encouragement, and I am just so glad that you're here today. Thanks so much for joining me. Well, hello, my friends. How are you? I'm so happy that you joined me today, tonight, however it is that you are listening to it, whatever time of day. and just wanted to tell you that I am thinking about many of you and praying for you. As it happens, we are in a real historic moment. This is November 4th, tomorrow's the 5th, and it is 2024. And just about everyone I know is nervous, a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit sad, and a little bit kind of wondering what in the world is going to happen with the election, regardless of which side you're on. There is a lot of angst and a lot of opinion and a lot that is going on. But I want to address that a little bit tonight, just a tiniest little bit. But first of all, before I address this whole issue in just one tiny sort of way, I wanted to tell you about tonight's podcast, the main part of the podcast. I have had a membership for years where people pay once a month to be able to download all sorts of resources that we prepared for them. This month was on manners and character and learning how to give honor to human beings, how to train your children to be honorable and to serve others. And it also, we have recipes around a waking wonder that children can do with parents. And I got a chance to tape one of them with my friends in Colorado before I came to Oxford. And we have book recommendations, many, 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 many books every single month. I always give some sort of a Bible study or an admonition or an encouragement, a teaching to everyone. And so tonight, I thought people say, can you just give me an example of what's on the membership? So tonight, I'm sharing with you my membership talk from about a week ago when we came out with new material for November. And I chose this particular one because this whole concept changed my life. When we look at the life of Christ, and I mentioned this in the podcast, but the God who created the whole universe, the God who threw the stars into place, who created tiny little bugs up to huge animals, up to galaxies, this God who loved us so much said about himself, I did not come to be served, but to serve and give my life as a ransom for many. The heart of God is to give to us, to take care of us, to meet our needs, to pay for our sin, to hold children in his arms, to encourage these crazy, young, undisciplined disciples, that they had a place in the world and a story to tell. And so as I was young and in my faith and just was drinking up every single story, every parable, everything that Jesus told, I realized that to know God was to know Christ and why he taught what he taught, how he lived, about the stories he told, but also to live my life in the ways that he lived his life. And so I did a talk last month, actually about a week ago, for my membership at Life with Sally about why servant leadership matters so much. So that will follow the part of the podcast that I'm going to be recording right now. But right now, I just wanted to tell you a little bit of my thought. I have been through many, many crises. I can remember that when I was living in Poland, it was a real scary time because it was a communist country and Bibles were not allowed, and Bible studies were not allowed, and we had to sneak and do things illegally behind closed doors. And I can remember the time when all the tanks from Russia pulled into the capital, Warsaw, where I was living, and we saw them. And Tito supposedly was coming from Yugoslavia to help in suppressing Lech Walesa, the man who was trying to bring freedom to Poland at the time. And my parents were so afraid that we were in danger, and there was supposed to be a war, and we only had one little tiny radio that we owned to listen to try to find out the news of what was really going on in the world, because, of course, in a communist country, you don't advertise it. So I look back on that, and I see how God protected us, and God was with us. I have so many more stories like that in my life, but I think it's so important for us to look beyond what is happening in our lives at this moment, and to say, God has eternity in mind. God is holding the heavens and the earth together in his hands. He is working behind the scenes. And even if I don't know, don't like, or can't control what is happening, I know that I can trust God, the eternal Father, the Creator, that he is working, and that he is working his will in the long term for his glory. There's a lot of chaos, a lot of war, a lot of difficulty in the world right now because of the rebellion and the evil and the wickedness that people have chosen to live their lives by. And yet we live in the palm of God. And so I just wanted to encourage you today, just a little bit before we even know what's going to happen in the election. And I know that the people who listen to my podcast are on different sides for different reasons. And so I loved this quote that A.W. Tozer said. He said, "Only a Christian has a right to hope, for only he has the power of God to give substance to his hope. Earth is bearable because there is hope." In other words, our hope is not in vain because we have hope in the infinite, eternal, righteous, holy God who cares deeply for us and what is happening in the world. And somehow, some way, we will understand when we are with him face to face. But until then, he will hold us. He will comfort us. He will continue to work his will together for good. So as we do prayerfully enter the next days and ask God to do his will, there is much room for fear, despair, or sadness. Yet regardless of the party or the things that you think that we need to tell God that he needs to do, our lives are much more about eternity at this present moment. And still, whatever the outcome, we extend his reality in our world by choosing love. Love covers a multitude of sin. By cultivating peace. Blessed are the peacemakers, they shall be called sons of God. By choosing to exhibit faith, to be humble, to be strong and steadfast, and to hope. That's why I love this quote that I just read to you by Tozer. No matter what circumstances or events, no matter what evil is boiling in the world, if we know our God, we understand that he is at work. And he is leading in very specific ways our world toward an ultimate celebration where all tears, all of your tears, all of my tears will be wiped away. All will be made new. All will be well. My friends, whatever you feel today, and I understand, some people are angry about things that are happening in our world. Some people are depressed. I tend to just get sad. I get sad about war. I get sad about people and children who are being killed. It's just something in my heart. And so I get sad. But the verse that God really brought to my mind as I was pondering all of this is, "Be strong and take heart, take courage, all you who hope in the Lord." So that is my prayer for you today, that you can be strong and take heart, that you can take courage because you hope in the Lord. So, my friends, know that we have a future with a hope, and I'm praying that you can rest in the peace of mind of the hope that God has given to us. Well, I look forward to continue hearing from you. I've been so blessed by so many notes about my book. I'm so glad you're liking Well Lived. It was just so much fun just to take the pictures. So hopefully you have enjoyed the pictures. As a matter of fact, tomorrow, there's never just one thing that's happening, is there? Tomorrow is the launch day for my precious, wonderful darling Sarah's new book. And I'm going to interview her in the next week or two, and you will hear all about her book. It will be so much fun to be able to tell you more about that. It's called Reclaiming Quiet, Cultivating a Life of Holy Attention. And I think that that's what we need to do. We're going to reclaim the quiet. It's not about, as I've observed since I've been in her house with the 4 kids, it's not about no noise. It's about rest in the midst of everything that's happening, the quiet that is there. So we're going to celebrate her tomorrow and release her book into the world and have lots of fun doing so. We're going to be with a bunch of friends at a little party that they're doing in her honor. So I hope that you are hanging in there. I hope that you are finding grace, and I hope that your days are as beautiful as mine are while I'm staying here in Oxford. I'm staying here for a few weeks so that I can enjoy my grandkids and my children, and am just grateful for every single minute that I have. So blessings to you, and here's the rest of my podcast. Have a really great week, and know that I will be praying for all of you every single day. Bye-bye for now. Hello, my friends. How are you today? This is Sally Clarkson, and I am so happy that you joined me. I am sitting in my sweet daughter Sarah's room in the late afternoon. We just went through daylight savings time here, so it's dark really early. But I'm sitting here just thinking about my week and thinking about so many of you. I have watched my precious girl. She has children 6, 4, 2, no, actually 3, and 1. And just remembering as we spend our days with her precious ones, the needs, the demands, the desires, all the different things that all these precious ones need. They need to eat and wear reasonably clean clothes and play and ask mommy a question. And everybody, I took 2 pictures of Sarah yesterday because no matter how big the room we were in, all of the children wanted to either touch her, be on her, sit on her, call to her, all of them at once. They're just attracted to her like she's glue. And I remember those days. They do the same to me when I'm here too. Queenie, will you sit next to me? Will you hold me in your lap, Queenie? So anyway, but all that to say, when I look at this gargantuan task of motherhood that God has placed upon us, that it is perpetually the same in every generation. Children come out needy. They need someone to take care of them. I've been thinking a lot lately about the fact that probably the greatest creation that God ever designed was human beings who are made in his image, those who can talk and think and make decisions and act, and those that the pinnacle of creation is entrusted into our hands and to do with what we will. Human beings are of the most value, I think, of anything that's been created. And so what we do with human beings, how we treat them, how we love them, how we educate them, how we pass on faith and values and goodness and love is of great importance to our lives, to future generations, and to God. He entrusted us with real live human beings whose lives would be impacted by the choices that we made. And as I look back now, there's so much I didn't know when I first became a mom of my 4 children, who are now 40, 37, 35, and 29. And so I'm kind of through with a lot of the phases and seasons that you are through with, or that you are still in the midst of. But also, I see that God gave me the ability to live through it with grace. But I wanted to talk about something right now, because as I think about the holidays coming up, and Thanksgiving and Christmas and all of the things in the midst of a very demanding and challenging time in history in the world. And I think that there's something that, and it's even, I'm reminded of it again as I'm here full on helping, reading, teaching, loving my grandchildren as I did my children, as I'm doing it side by side with Sarah for the while that I'm here. But I think that because I knew how important the cultivating, the shaping, the molding, the loving of human beings was, it gave me motivation to do what I needed to do. But one of the things that Sarah and I have been talking about is that if you don't give your whole self to this task, I'm not saying that's the only task that women can do, but it is an important one, because in order for human beings to become great of soul, great of faith, great of goodness, great, there has to be somebody who shapes that, who teaches that, who models that. And so that's what makes our role so important. But there is a concept that I grew to learn about that really changed my life, totally changed my perspective, because I think that what we need to understand as believers is that when it's not just saying a magical prayer to get into heaven that really shapes our lives, but when we believe in Christ, in the God who created all of the universe, created us, had wisdom to pass on, had principles of truth for us to live by, that when we become believers in this God, we are dedicating all of who we are, our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and every day, and all of our choices to Him, to say, I will serve you in everything I do. And so what that means when we come to this role of being a mom, or being a wife, or being a friend, or whatever, we do that with our whole heart. We because it is what pleases our God. And so I want to just share today, because I know that many of you, most of you, are going into these holiday seasons, and there will be even more demands upon you, even more excellence required, because the expectations are high. And so I was just thinking about this concept, and I want to talk about it a little bit today. In Mark chapter 10, verse 45, it says, "For even the Son of Man, Jesus, did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give His life as a ransom for many." So God, when He came to this earth, said, I came not to be served, but to serve. He came to show us what it looked like to relate to other human beings, to build the kind of world where truth and virtue and goodness are actually a part of the daily life. Evidently, somebody broke the chain, because that is not what we are experiencing now in our world. But it is what God designed our world to be like. So the concept of servant leadership, serving those that you love, understanding that it is in serving people that you lead them to truth, transformed my life, my philosophy of discipleship, my understanding of the cost of love. And once I gave in to becoming a servant leader every day, all the time, in all seasons, I was more content with my life and the people I served. And not only that, I was more encouraged by the growth, by the vocabulary they developed. It's really fun for me to be here and watch that. Every morning when the children are eating, Sarah is reading these great books. She's having a devotion, then she'll read a hero tale, then she will read, something about science and nature. And I just see the children eating it up. They have the most interesting vocabulary, and they know who are heroes, and they know who are villains, and they care deeply, and they giggle at the right places. Well, I'm watching their whole little brains and their whole little souls and their whole little faith being shaped. And I've told this story a few times, but it could be one of 20 happenings in my house that were exactly like it. One cool evening, one of my sweet ones, my adult children, plopped down on our front porch rocker and sighed with such a sigh. It sounded as though the whole world were going to end because of their sigh. And I looked into the face of my adult child. I saw weariness. Maybe you're like this. Discouragement, exhaustion amidst projects, financial demands, relationship issues. I knew that life had taken from them more than usual. It had left this precious one's soul dry and weary. I slipped into the kitchen, got a cool drink, warm bread, strong English cheese, a bowl of delightful soup, and brought out a personal tray. I set it next to my depleted child, and it was just what they needed because I know they hadn't even eaten lunch yet. How about a shoulder rub for just a few minutes, I said when they were through with the wonderful soup. As I put pressure on the knots twisted up from stress, the drink and the snacks were consumed all together. My child looked at me, breathing out the weariness. I think you have influenced me more to love God by your great meals and by shoulder rubs than anything else you ever did. And I've seen that even to this day with my adult children. When I gently see, do they still want a back scratch or a back rub at the right moment? When God created the world, we were not just people of intellect, of understanding, but we were people who had senses that made us feel the touch of a hand, the splendor and taste of a well-cooked meal, the soothing sounds of rain pattering down or music wafting through a room, the delight of purple mountains amidst fluffy clouds. We are multidimensional beings, my friends, who are stronger, healthier when all of these differing needs are attended to, but it needs someone to attend to it. As we seek to influence the thinking, the faith, the love of our children, it will be as we do the work of serving over and over again, of exercising thoughtful, kind deeds thousands of times, one moment at a time. Someone must do the work of life that results in pleasurable moments. When there are children involved, often it is the mama, and she is the tireless servant, the worker, and the leader. There is another passage in Scripture that I repeat a lot, so maybe you've heard me talk about it before, but it's in John 13, verses 1 through 5. And it says, Now before the feast of the Passover, Jesus, knowing that his hour had come, that he would depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. So he was thinking about the fact that his hour had come. And this is probably the hour when he probably thought, this is when I should be worshiped. You should love me. You should worship me. You should say, I'm going to miss you so much. But instead, he wasn't thinking about that. Jesus, knowing his hour had come, that he would depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. During supper, the devil had already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, to betray him. Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, that he had come forth from God, that he was going back to God, this is his response. He got up from supper. He laid aside his garments, and taking a towel, he girded himself about. Then he poured water, probably warm water, into the basin, and he began to wash the disciples' feet to wipe them with a towel with which he was girded. So here God wants to show us what is the most important concept to leave in the minds of his disciples that he's going to leave that night. The most important thing was that he humbled himself, bowed down. Maybe it was refreshing cold water. We don't know, but whatever it was, Jesus bowed down and did the work that slaves normally did. He washed their, as I've always said, 120 dirty men toes. He washed their feet. He touched them. He probably gave them a massage. And I think that as I think about precious mamas, Jesus has never asked us to do what he did not first do to show us how to live. He touched lepers. He blessed prostitutes. He held children in his arms. He walked long distances with his disciples to be at their personal houses, to heal Peter's mother, for instance. He was the servant leader. He was humble and meek, he said, learn from me. And as I think about the holidays that all of you are coming upon, I know that the holidays will not be a break for many of you. Plenty of mamas in the United States during Thanksgiving will spend their holiday much like any other, but with more. Cooking meals, cleaning up messes, wiping faces, washing laundry. Sometimes it seems a holiday only guarantees there will be more work when the party is over. And yet, what a gift it is, this memory, this tangible celebration, every time we are given the opportunity to have a few extra hours to gather with our friends, to relax with our family, to celebrate what is good. In order for anyone to enjoy life at all, someone has to do the work. How could we enjoy a fun picnic if no one packed it? And let's not imagine the way our children's bedrooms were looked if all mothers ceased their training and their labor. I'm so grateful when I think about these things for the example of Jesus, because it taught me the most of what it meant to be like him by following his model in my own life and in my own family and with my own friends. Jesus, who shows us over and over again, as we read of the way he interacted with his disciples, that these little things, these unending, sometimes tiresome tasks that mothers face every day can become holy actions as we offer them to him. Every time we serve our children, we invest in them. We're building bridges from our hearts to theirs. We're helping their souls understand the love and the grace of God. Jesus spent his last night on earth with his disciples in service to them. How powerful their memories that night must have been. The King of the whole universe touching and rubbing their dusty feet and gently drying them with a towel. Their Lord and Master bent over in the dusty floor. Their friend and Lord breaking the loaf of bread and serving each of them for the celebrated feast of the Passover. Jesus' example of servant leadership sets him apart from so many historical religious leaders. He was not a God who lorded it over his followers and demanded that they followed him, or coerced their obedience through authoritarianism and fear. Instead, Jesus called them to the excellence of holiness and yet lovingly served them in order to win their hearts and show them the means of reaching others' hearts as well. It was through his model, his servant leadership, and then giving his life up to die that caused all of the disciples to give their lives for his cause. When we follow his model, our children will be responding in the same way as the disciples did. As I look at the hearts of my own children, even as adults, and seek to teach them about the grace of God, I realize my love and service to them must come before any of my great or demanding words, my teaching, my training. My time staying up late for conversations, watching movies and discussing them, my attention, the soft tickling, which is what we called scratching your back, laying in bed with my sweet ones, lying in bed with my sweet ones, listening to their hearts when I would rather be in my bed, even when I'm tired or have other important things on my mind. This is what builds our relationship and prepares them to listen to what I have to say. Only then, once the wells of their needs are filled with the grace of being loved, will my words and your words to them about God's grace finally make sense, because they will have heard it, they will have felt it, they will have seen it in our lives to other people as well, and they will understand even when we were tired, even when we were tempted to be angry, even when we were tempted to be impatient. We extended to them the grace, the love, the servanthood of Jesus our King. I do want my children to understand God's goodness and love, and while demonstrating patience and service to them is not always easy. I know it's not easy. I've lived through it. I've gone many seasons and am still doing it, and am still serving my grandchildren right now. But it is my privilege, because I don't know how best to show God how much I love him. But I can say, but God, I will do what you did. I will be like you, Jesus. I will reach hearts the same way you did, because you came to show me how. So, my friends, even in a holiday season, your act of worship, the greatest act of worship you might do, is to hold and soothe a fussy baby, is to read a story to a child who can't get to sleep at night, is to lovingly cook that one more meal, wash that one more dish, and sing that one more lullaby. Dear God, I just thank you for these precious ones. And Lord, you understand their weariness and the ways that they give and the things that they have had to sacrifice in order to meet the needs, all the needs of their family, along with their marriage or not marriage, with their difficulties or with their challenges, that with the different limitations of their children and their family. With all of these things, Lord, when they gently choose to bow their knee and to give of their lives as Jesus did when he washed the disciples' feet, they are bringing the reality of Christ to their world and in their home. Bless my precious friends today, I pray, Lord. Bless them, encourage them, and Lord, maybe even allow someone for a few moments to respond to them in serving them. Thank you so much, Lord, for your love. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, my friends, I hope you have a really, really good week. I'm probably going to share this on my podcast as well as in my membership, because I want my friends to understand the kinds of messages that will be given in the membership, Life with Sally. I love, love, love to see women encouraged, and I hope that you will join me there on lifewithsally.com. But anyway, my whole heart is in sympathy with you as you cook, and yet I want to taste your food, as you stand with your children, as you reach out to other people, and as hopefully somebody serves you just a little bit. If I could, I would. I just hope that you have the best of Novembers, and that you have joy in this wonderful time, in this season of the year, when we celebrate our families together. And I know that there are many of you whose family, like ours, we didn't have grandparents and cousins and uncles and aunts to be with, so we had to adopt people into our home, both when my children were young, and then when they got older, we did it continuously, with a few Thanksgivings where we had just moved to a new city and had to learn to extend Thanksgiving in celebration, even with our tiny family at that time. So I understand. I love you. I pray for you. And I am so extremely, exceedingly grateful to get to be in this place with you and to be a part of this community. May God bless you. Have a great week. Bye-bye. I hope you've enjoyed our time together today and that you'll join me next week. Be sure to look for more inspiration on my blog at sallyclarkson.com. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.